There's been a bit of a stir online right now because Ben Shapiro, the guy who talks really fast, what's the word for it? Oh, he's kind of smug. Now, people that are smug are kind of dangerous, especially when they're very, very, very wrong, because in this post-truth era, the most important thing is sounding like you're right. And driving it home by ridiculing others. Ben Shapiro, I don't know what, you shouldn't even stick to politics. You should probably stick to nothing, but especially not technology, because you have no idea how the internet works and you're running your mouth. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to go through this 2 minutes and 34-second video, and off the top of my head, without even doing a lot of research, I'm going to tear them in half, and then on the website over on Tech Syndicate, we'll put some links to historic documents, key laws, and different things like that, just key things that these ISPs have done. So you can take a look at this and just see how dangerous it is to have someone who sounds so smart, who is eloquent, out there saying such nonsense.
I think I'd explained this a few days ago on the show, didn't I? I did a whole segment on net neutrality, I thought, where I discussed at length the idea that ISPs, basically net neutrality is the suggestion. It was only put into place in the last couple of years of the Obama administration.
And that's when it was classified as Title II, which is more of like a utility. Now, one of the reasons that we did this was because the internet is changing. And people's bandwidth consumption habits are drastically changing. Before then, we didn't really have as much of a need to classify it like this. But now that we have, Netflix and Hulu and all these services that consume an enormous amount of bandwidth, and also just our businesses, they're transforming the way they do work. We're in an age where the internet is extremely important. So we needed to protect that and make sure that it's even for everyone. Now, I want to go on.
Before that, the internet was working just fine. Net neutrality is basically the suggestion that internet service providers have to supply traffic, supply all use of traffic the same price. So Netflix, which eats up an enormous amount of bandwidth, has to be charged the same as some schmo in his basement who is just loading up his blog. And it's also, net neutrality also says that all pages have to be loaded at the same speed.
Good grief, Ben. You don't know how this stuff works. Services like Netflix and Hulu and whatever other video streaming service, YouTube and that sort of thing, they have enormous infrastructure costs, and they're also paying a ton for their upload. They've got stuff everywhere, and they also are already paying Comcast to be not really on the fast lane, but they have servers inside Comcast, that sort of thing. So they're already paying a lot on the back end just to get their stuff online. Now, the way the internet's set up is there are a number of large backbones across the country, and then some of those are controlled by companies like Comcast, Verizon, and that sort of thing. They're controlled by a number of backbone providers. And Netflix and those companies already pay those guys a bit of money. All of that stuff you're talking about is completely irrelevant. The thing that's relevant here is that every user at their house is paying for a connection. So let's say you right now are paying for up to 100 megabits per second. Your ISP is giving you that. You should be allowed to use up to 100 megabits per second all the time. And now you even have a data bandwidth cap. So they're saying, okay, you can use that entire 100 megabits per second until you hit your cap, which is ridiculous, number one. But you have that. So you're able to use this. Now what's happening is they're saying, well, a lot of people are using one thing over the other. So we want to take money from Netflix because a lot of people are watching it. And we want to take money from the people. The people at home have already paid for the internet. Netflix just happens to be on the internet. Netflix doesn't need to pay again for access to the customers who are already paying for the service. Do you guys understand me here? You're paying for it. It doesn't matter what you do online. You are paying for the internet. You're paying for that bandwidth. You are. They want a double payday for the same exact thing.
It benefits big corporations like Netflix over the little guy. The reality is that if you're taking up a huge share of the bandwidth, then there might be companies that say, we will provide you a faster access, but you have to pay more money. It's not incumbent on internet service providers to be forced to be treated like public utilities. The way to think of it is that internet service providers are like the pipes, and the content of the internet is like water. So you can think of it in two ways. It's a public utility. Everybody should be able to turn on the tap at the same time and get the water, or that the pipe company should be able to charge you what they want, or charge the water company what it wants for the water moving through the pipe.
Internet is not a finite resource like water or whatever is. The internet uses low voltage. So it uses electricity, but not a lot of electricity. The main thing with the internet is the number of connections, the number of ports, and obviously the type of connection. Like if you have copper running to your house, well, that's going to be slower if you're sharing it with the entire neighborhood. Now, if you've got fiber going to the house, that's a direct pipe straight to you, and that pipe can support the maximum speed all day, every day, as long as you have a port at the facility. Now, here's the deal with like companies like Comcast, Verizon, Charter, whatever. They oversell things. So they give you 100 megabits per second. Some of these companies upsell this at a factor of 100, meaning you got 100 megabits per second, and they've also sold that same port to 100 other people. So that's how many people, and if you guys are all at the same time, yeah, it's going to cause some problems. The real issue here is the fact that in 1992, they were given billions in tax rebates. Now, this money was supposed to go towards upgrades for the infrastructure, and it didn't. They just pocketed the money, started trying to buy each other to further remove competition, and they never really did many upgrades, especially not the ones that were promised. They did some small upgrades here and there. I know some of you guys are getting fiber here and there, but they've done very small upgrades, just, minimal. And a lot of that's based on their market research as to where they can make the most money and that sort of thing. They haven't done it for the betterment of the people.
You can have multiple pipes, right? There are multiple internet reasons that net neutrality has become such an issue is because of special deals with local governments by a lot of the internet service providers. So the only providers in their region. If there were open competition, you would actually see competition. Like for people, for example, who only use email but don't watch streaming video, right? Like older people who only want to watch.
In Seattle, for instance, there was like a 15-year deal that the mayor signed saying that, hey, the only television provider in the city of Seattle is going to be Comcast. Internet can be anybody, but a lot of the internet providers would come into the area and be like, so we can't offer television as well. We can only offer internet, so screw this market. So Seattle was really harmed by that. Unless you're a business, you had options, but a lot of people didn't have really good options because a lot of people didn't want to come into the area. So he's right there that one of the problems is that they're making deals with local governments. Now, one of the things that's making these deals happen is the fact that the giant ISP industry, they're coming in and they're lobbying these local, municipalities. And then if the local municipality or whatever, they want to set up their own internet, they sue them for competition because they say like, hey, look, a city or a municipality is not supposed to be competing with a business. But at the same time, that business is not taking care of the community. So it's like this, what do we do type thing. So the real issue there is he's right on that point. I'm not sure where he thinks removing net neutrality is going to make more competition, because it's absolutely not going to make more competition. It's going to allow these guys to further consolidate. It's going to allow them to further make deals where they can come into a city and be like, listen, we're the only guys in town, and that's just the way it's going to be. I don't know how he's relating that to being a benefit, but whatever, Ben.
If there were open competition, you would actually see competition. Like for people, for example, who only use email but don't watch streaming video, right? Like older people who only want to watch TV but don't actually want to use Netflix or Hulu, they should be able to get the internet cheaper than people who want to be able to get Netflix and Hulu, right? Or if you only want to get Netflix and Hulu and you don't use email, right? You just use text messages, you should be able to have these options. There's nothing wrong with any of this. This is why when people say it's a corporate giveaway to get rid of net neutrality, there are major corporations like Google and Netflix who basically want to prevent smaller companies. There are major corporations like Google.
Yeah, all people are not going to do anything online, right? They don't even know how to yeah.
Just check your email, Grandpa.
Nice generalization, dude.
Yeah.
And Netflix, who basically want to prevent smaller companies from being able to take advantage of differential pricing on ISPs to compete with them. So it depends which corporations you're talking about. Google is a huge corporation, Facebook's a huge corporation, Twitter is a huge corporation. All of them are in favor of net neutrality because they're content providers. All the ISPs are in favor of getting rid of net neutrality.
If we don't have net neutrality, there's nothing stopping Comcast from saying like, hey, listen, the small guys, you guys want to be a video channel too? Well, there's going to be a massive cost, for entry. And also, let's think about this. What about the future Netflix? The Netflix that comes up that has a better rating system that doesn't suck. Like the future versions of Hulu, the future streaming services, the future Twitch. What if those guys can never get started because they cannot compete with the already established major businesses who do have the deep pockets and can pay? These new companies, these new startups will never be able to get to the Netflix level because they can't raise enough money to pay the ISPs so that their stuff can be seen in the first place. Ben keeps saying that the internet was fine. No, it was not fine. Look at places like Chattanooga who rolled out this beautiful gigabit internet all over the place just to have the ISPs lose their minds, go to Tennessee, start legislating, and now, small communities and that sort of thing cannot set up their own internet because these people have come and they've stopped it. We were at a point where the rest of the world was starting to take off. And that's really important because the future of business is online. The internet is no longer a novelty. It's becoming a necessity for businesses and for people who need to connect. Saying that it was fine is completely ridiculous. It was moving in the wrong direction. Title II was a step in the right direction, but we still needed to do a lot more to stop them from lobbying, to stop them from locking down local markets, to encourage competition. And we need to upgrade our infrastructure severely. So all this nonsense where if this goes through and FCC's been moving to a system where they don't have to upgrade any of their services, they can just give everybody a 4G antenna for your roof. If everybody starts getting 4G antennas as the copper starts to, deteriorate and nobody gets fiber, guys, we're going to end up being like 100 on the list of global internet speed. And that's going to be really bad for us. So guys, don't listen to people like Ben Shapiro. We'll throw more that's on the website with some links to stuff. But Ben, seriously, I don't know, stick to your little hive of whatever you do on the internet, but stay away from technology, dude. You have no idea what you're talking about, and you have no business talking about it.